first, I want to say thank you so very much for your quick and what was an overwhelming response to us wanting to launch this. We're absolutely thrilled that we reached out to Mark Ross and he readily said yes. So in, I think, about 24 hours, we have pulled this together, and our hope is that we will be able to offer these every Wednesday at noon at lunch. So to give you a little bit of invigoration and inspiration so that you can continue on with the rest of your day and your week. So Mark is, in short, just a great leader. He's the managing partner of the Cleveland office for PwC. He is an alum of Leadership Cleveland 2016. He has been a strong friend of the Leadership Center since he participated in Leadership Cleveland, but he serves in so many different areas, on the board of college now, a Playhouse Square, and the City Club, hospice. He's been just involved in so many civic initiatives. And most recently, he's leading the charge on innovation work with the Greater Cleveland Partnership. Folks on my team read some of his blog posts over the course of the past week and just really found what he had to say resonated with them and with what we like to do at the Leadership Center. So with that, I want to thank Mark and welcome him, and let's go. Mark.
Wow, thank you, Marianne, for that introduction. And I'm proud to be the first speaker of the Leader Lunch Break. It's really exciting, and just I can see many of you, which is obviously you can see me and others as well. But I do wonder if Larry Oscar is actually in San Francisco or just managed to build that screen. But we'll deal with that. We'll deal with that later. As Marianne mentioned, I'm a proud LC 2016 class member and proud to have been part of the endowment campaign last year. But all of that really doesn't matter. You write a couple blogs and you end up getting pulled into the first one of these. So I'm not going to make this a blog reading if there is such a thing, but I will touch on a few of those themes as part of this conversation. Before I start, I think it's worth mentioning that if you'd asked me you told me 2 weeks ago that I would be sitting in my home office and doing a video conference like this, I would have told you were crazy. 2 weeks ago, I thought Zoom was the sound a car engine made, and the world has changed rapidly and continues to change rapidly. So, but it's, for those of us in the older generation, this transition is challenging. So it takes a lot to work through it, and patience as well. So. The theme of this conversation is really around the importance of empathy when leading in challenging times, and that really came out in my most recent blog. Before diving into that, I thought I would start by telling you what I think some of the important prerequisites are for leaders to be able to really exhibit the necessary empathy. And part of it, honestly, is we have to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves. If you read my first blog, you'll see the discussion I had around the challenges that I had in 2008. And I wasn't a great leader at that point. I was overly focused on myself, partly because I let my mental health get in the way. And I also missed a very obvious sign that at some point during that whole thing, my treadmill died and I wasn't exercising. So, and I wasn't sleeping well, I wasn't exercising. And I spent a lot of time inwardly focused when I could have been helping others. And quite frankly, after getting through that, I promised I wasn't gonna let those things come into play again. But I think that's really important. So why am I so focused on empathy right now? This is beyond unprecedented. I mean, the unemployment challenges we're going to have almost overnight, the precipitous drop in the GDP in the markets, the challenges to our healthcare system. I mean, yesterday alone, there was, I think, 4,000 people served by the food bank in Cleveland. This is, and then you add on the fear and anxiety, I have to believe, of the older and at-risk generation that is most likely at risk from the disease. I think you just have to really think about the importance of putting yourself in other people's shoes. It's just fundamentally different than the other issues that we've been through. And as we at my firm begin to think about communicating with clients, we have to be thoughtful about when we reach out. We have to be thoughtful about when we ask why they want to delay a project, because we really have to think about what's important to them and everybody that we come in contact with. The other thing that I believe is really important around this is the reality that the world is going to be different when we come out of this. Business models are going to change dramatically. They already are. And when you think about what the Leadership Center is doing today in terms of thinking about how to transform their business model to continue with their theme and mission, but do it in a different way, that's how we all need to be thinking about how we communicate with other stakeholders and our people. City Club's doing a great job with that as well. Dan was thinking about this before, well before. He was thinking about it 2 weeks in advance because of the way his business model works, and almost immediately they were able to convert to online forums. And I think our older generation is being forced into the digital age at a pace that they probably certainly don't appreciate and certainly weren't ready for. I think that if you want to talk about, say, the Cleveland Clinic, a month ago, 2% of their primary care visits were virtual. 2 weeks ago, that was 20%. Last week, it was 30%. The world is changing. The need for flexibility is changing. It's gonna impact all businesses, and change like that is scary. So acknowledging that is going to be really, really important as we communicate with folks. As I think about my personal leadership style and thinking about how to make sure I'm thinking about empathy, I really look at it in kind of four attributes or four ways. One is thinking about what can I do, or how can I impact the community at large? And that's where the blogs come in. That's where opportunities like this come in, to try and share insights and experiences and try and be supportive of others in the broader community. The second is, and again, these are relevant to all of us because we're all leaders and we're all involved in a variety of organizations beyond just ours. And it's helping those other nonprofits think about their challenges and how they're going to deal with the change in their business model, both today in the short term and longer term. And I've had a lot of discussions with each of the nonprofits that I'm working with. You can imagine all of their stakeholders and all of their issues are different. The City Club's issues are similar but very different than Playhouse Square. Hospice is worried about masks and the safety of their healthcare workers. They're all different, but everybody's got to be thinking differently, and we as leaders can help them advance their thinking and do the right thing. The third bucket is my PwC family. Certainly, the firm is doing a lot for our clients as we work through this, but we've also got to think about our people. And I would tell you, a month ago, we've always had the opportunity to make our meetings web-based. And I would use the speaker, I would use the dial-in, probably because I knew, oh, there's Tim. That's great, Marianne, I see Tim. I would use the dial-in, honestly, probably because I could multitask better and no one would see me. And now I'm forcing myself to use this feature every call to try and communicate. You know, one of the things we've had a great, one of the things that I haven't counted with after a third of my age is somehow we all learned, many of us learned how to play euchre in college, and we've had an amazing get-togethers at my house and other places to play euchre. Our tournament in two weeks is not going to happen, but we are working at night in little groups to figure out how to make a virtual euchre tournament using web and the app online, and I think we're going to get it done. And it gives me an opportunity to connect with our folks and try and just stay connected and stay impactful. The last group is what I would call other individuals impacted, people all of us know that are going to be struggling. Whether it was my friend who said, my gym's closed, I'm stressed, I need help, and you just say, okay, let me add you to my Peloton app, or you're ordering takeout and you double the bill for a tip that they weren't expecting. You know, my friend who couldn't figure out how to get his COVID test and needed somebody at the clinic to help him navigate that. It's, you know, another friend who needed a therapist. I'm like, all right, I've got one. Let me see if she'll take you. We got to be doing that. We got to be reaching out to people who, particularly those that are in the restaurant industry, who have to be absolutely at their ends right now to see how we can help and be impactful. So those are the 4 ways I'm trying to think about it, and trying to think about it every day. Obviously, they move around a bit depending on the priority of the day. This has been a weird week, I'll be honest with you. I mean, I meet with clients regularly, and you know, there were a few calls this week, but this has been, it's been different. I live at home. I'm here by myself. It's weird. It's very weird. But I also learned in 2008 that for me to help anybody else, I got to make sure I stay positive and work through it. And I'm going to do that. The final comment, and again, you know, I said it before, just to restate, we are going to come out of this very differently than we went into it. The changes we're making, the virtual nature of the way our people want to work, the virtual nature of everything is going to be different. And none of us in the organizations we lead or the organizations we assist can wait until that point in time to realize that we missed the opportunity to stay connected to our clients, our stakeholders, our people. We have to be doing that now. And we have to be thinking about how our business models are going to be forever changed. You know, Marianne, you may find that one or two sessions of each of your programs ends up being done like this periodically, because it's a better balance for people and their schedules. You know, Laura, I wonder what this does to the future of people interested to go into banks, because I would have to bet that there's a whole bunch of people in the older generation that had never deposited a check remotely that are probably forced to do it now. And that was the only reason they were going into banks. One of my friends called me the other day and was worried about, he works for a firm that designs office space, and oh man, nobody's going to want to do their office space in this market. I said, no, they may want to do it very differently than they did it before. They may want to do it the way PwC did it and cut our space to let people work virtually and flexible. So everything is changing. The sooner we start thinking about how those changes impact the businesses and the people around us, I think the better we're all gonna feel when we come out of this. So with that, I'll stay healthy, stay positive, stay engaged. And again, Marianne, thanks for the thoughtful ask for me to do this, and for you doing this, because this is exactly what the message should be. Everybody needs to think differently, and this series will be helpful for all of us to hear from others and how they're thinking about this. So thank you for that, and I'll turn it back to I don't know where they are. They're here somewhere. There's Rachel for questions.
Yeah, sure. So we're going to open it up for questions now. And to start, we would love to hear from you. What is PwC doing differently for its clients and stakeholders now?
Thanks for that. I'm really proud of my firm right now. so there's three things, and we'll send out a link to some of this stuff after the session. We've created this interactive tool called the PwC Navigator, which helps our clients and nonprofits as well to help assess their risk to dealing with the COVID situation. So that's one thing. We have historically used something to help upskill our people from a technology perspective. We call it our digital fitness app. And we've used this app to really help accelerate our digital transformation as a firm. We've sold it to clients, and we've created actually an edition of it for school teachers to help upskill them as they instruct. How does that fit into this? What we've done now is we're going to release that tool globally with an entirely new suite of applications around COVID, and not just the education around COVID, but helping teachers think about remote learning, helping parents think about how they're helping to school their children, thinking about health and wellness during this time. And that app is going to be available, I think, within the next handful of days. And you'll see that on our PwC website. Our senior partner put out an amazing blog this week that is also something to take a look at. And I may actually retweet that rather than do my own this week. But and then we've created we've taken about $3 million out of our charitable foundation and begun to plant that into the markets where our nonprofits are in most need. So doing a lot, and with 55,000 people and 70, 80% of them millennials. We're more flexible, more remote than many, and more digital than many. So I'm happy that we did all that when we did. Lots of questions, it looks like. Sorry, I'll stop.
So here is one. What can someone do to help build their own abilities and to be flexible and agile?
That's a great question. I think the first thing is you've got to accept that it's going to take time, and you've got to be patient, and that's the hardest part to me. And I think it's hard. So be patient and ask for help. There's been more than a couple of occasions in the last week that I've asked a socially distanced staff member to come over and help me create my office space and help me think about how to do all this stuff that I now need to do. So ask for help, be patient. As I was, I think, saying yesterday, earlier this week, I realized that I really wanted to file my late father's final tax return. I know I've got an extension, but I want the closure. And I'm like, I don't even have a large 8.5 by 11 envelope at home. I don't have whiteout tape. And I'm like makeshifting used stuff. And I'm trying to say, don't get mad. Like, why didn't I take all this stuff from the office when they shut it down? Just adjust. But so it's patience, and it's ask for help. The best thing we all have going for us is there's a generation that's behind many of us that understands this and can help us. We got to ask them for help. And by the way, they need our help in thinking about this being their first crisis they've had to live through, and we can give them advice there.
Great. So you mentioned that for many, it's moving to virtual work for the first time. So do you have some best practices for communicating to employees working from home for the first time about expectations, while also being empathetic to people who are working from home with kids and partners who are also working from home? Yeah,
I am certain that, well, I think we'll have some of those in the app that we talked about, but I hate to go back to patience, but I'll be honest, I was one of those people that whenever I heard somebody's kids screaming in the background a month ago or months ago, or their dogs barking, it really bothered me, and I've just let that all go. And I think that the leaders in the organizations need to make more frequent touch points with their people. I think forcing the connection on these video chats versus what would be conference calls is all part of it. But it's probably more frequent touching in and reaching out around how are they doing with their work, but how are they doing, period, which is really important. I don't have kids. I don't have a pet. I don't have most of the distractions that many of the folks who are dealing with this do. But I know they're there, and if we can get tools in people's hands to help them, and the organizations that are the nonprofits that are helping with education, getting tools to parents to help them manage this better, and we're trying to do that with the app. But everybody, how can you help take this burden off of parents who are trying to juggle everything is going to be really important.
So given your extensive nonprofit involvement, as we think about Cleveland being a very heavy nonprofit sector, how do you think that sector is going to be affected by everything that's going on right now?
Yeah, I think that I do wonder whether I've wondered for a long time, and many people have, whether we have too many nonprofits and some of them should be combined. And I think some of that's going to happen. I think there are nonprofits that have resources, board members, and endowments, et cetera, that will help them weather the storm if it's only a couple, 3 months. Others may not. I do think that just from what I've heard this week in terms of what the Cleveland Foundation's doing, Ron Richards said, I'm basically telling my board, I'm throwing out what we had planned. We were our funding requirements, our funding criteria, I probably shouldn't be saying this, but, and we're focusing on the needs of this community that are now present as a result of this. And they're not alone there. I mean, we have massive resources in this community. And I think that I'm hopeful we will not lose any of the organizations that really we need to sustain. And I'm fairly confident in that. There are some organizations who, if you don't have enough money to make 2 months payroll, maybe it's time to think about combining. And I hate to say that, but that may be the reality for a small percentage.
So part of what you mentioned is making sure as senior leadership, you're checking in with your team and having those touch points throughout the day. Much of that, though, then senior leadership could end up getting really sucked up into meetings and those check-ins. Any advice for streamlining staff communications so that you can actually get work done, but still staying connected to the team?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends a lot on the structure of the teams. We have a bit of a pyramid type of structure, so it's easier for us. I can, if I wanted to, connect with the level that follows the partner level and cascade that down. In more flat organizations, that's probably a little bit tougher. But here's the reality. I have to believe that every one of us, because we're not leaving our houses, because we're not doing a lot of what we had to do, we all have more time than we want to have right now. I bet every one of us gets to 3 o'clock going, is it only 3 o'clock? I mean, maybe not. I mean, maybe if people are still going in, but those of us that are at home, these are long days. So I'm not as worried about that right now. Actually, that'd be a great problem to have. If I had to work 24 hours a day because there was that much to do, I'd be thrilled, to be honest with you. It doesn't feel that way, unfortunately. Laura, you look like you're trying to do something there. I can't tell what. Oh, you're just fixing your camera. Okay, never mind.
So we have time for one more question.
Sure.
And I think we're going to focus on how can we keep our energy positive day after day with so much uncertainty that's out there right now?
Yep. I think that particularly in the nonprofit space, every one of us has a unique mission, and we need to figure out how to digitize that mission and have regular positive touch points. And I know, Marianne, you're thinking about something like that you're going to do on a daily basis to get insights out. I've encouraged Playhouse Square to do something similar to that, given the fact that they've got a very, well, we'll call it they've got a lot of older folks in their customer base and their Redcoat base. And Dan Multhrup's doing that. But I think we've got to have regular touch points through social media, through direct reach outs to our stakeholders and our donors and everybody else. Little messages that just keep reinforcing the positive. You know, on an individual basis, I'm just going to use my Peloton every day and drink every night, and it'll be fine. Kidding, but well, not really. But you got to talk to people, and you got to ask for help if you need it. We need the leaders in this community to stay as positive as possible. I learned that lesson the hard way, and I also think that we don't know the end of this, but the worst of it is going to have a finite period, I hope. I'm not as bullish as the president that it's going to be by Easter, which would be the biggest disaster we could ever have, probably. But if you put everybody back in church, we're not quite done. But oops, went off script. Sorry. All right, so I answered that. Sorry, I'll give it back to you, Marianne, because I know we want to get done kind of on time.
Great. Thanks to Rachel and Jody for helping to moderate through this, and Mark, amazing. I truly appreciate your taking time to share some of your insights and observations and just give us some help as to how do we navigate our way through these days. What I have heard the most when talking with our alums and still meeting with our program participants, because we have not canceled anything, we are doing everything virtually, is just the uncertainty. There's an anxiety and a certain level of fear, but the overwhelming need is for connectivity. And I think you offered some great suggestions as to how to maintain that. Zoom is, to me, the greatest tool that has ever been invented, and I want to send a personal thank you note to its founder. But these, in terms of the Leadership Center, we are going to keep doing these. We're going to have videos that will come out every day, kind of your daily dose of inspiration, called Leaderline, and we're trying to plan program content every day at lunch from noon until 12:30. So if you can tune in and kind of get some sustenance and connect with other leaders, pose your challenges and get some help, we're here to help you do that. So thanks to everyone for helping us in this inaugural journey, and thank you, Mark.
Thanks for my first Zoom meeting. Yay. Thank you.
Hey, thank you. Have a good day. Thanks.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Thanks all. Look for the next one coming soon.